What's up, boys? I've read a few good books. If you're anything like me, you've invested in some good books too. I used to do this shit where I would buy a book, I would get through it, and then I would move on to the next one. And by doing this, you do get a lot of value, you do learn a lot, but I've realized that the actual key to getting a shitload of value out of the books and the courses that you buy is to not just read a book once, it's to read a book a shitload of times. In reality, we're all really shit at retaining new information. Anything that goes against our core beliefs and our current internal narratives, especially, is discarded rather quickly. And self-improvement books are built around this idea of challenging what you think and the things that you believe. For your own good, of course, but subconsciously, your brain doesn't see it that way. This means to actually retain and internalize all of the information that you're reading, you need to do it more than once. It needs to be a minimum of 4 or 5 times before you start to retain most of the book. So choose a book that you like the lessons of and that you think covers a lot of the main things that you struggle with or you want to improve on, and fucking hammer it over and over. The book I've chosen to do this with is The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieter. I have had this audiobook for about a year, and in that time I've read it about 5 or 6 times, so I've listened to it. And even after 5 or 6 listen-throughs, on my most recent run-through of the book, which was probably about 2 weeks ago, there was still entire chapters that I did not recall ever listening to at all. And not even just like small, trivial, boring, useless chapters or anything. No, like important fucking chapters, right? So like pretty key things about the book's core concepts, right? And so if I've listened to a book 5 or 6 times and there's still heaps of like brand new shit that I'm basically figuring out each time, then just imagine in a book that you've only listened to once, how much untapped potential is still in those pages. By this time, you probably logically agree with me, and and maybe you're getting annoyed at how many fucking times I've told you to read the same book over and over again. But there's a couple of things that are going to come up in your mind, some concerns that I'm going to address now to make it easier for you to actually go and like take action on this rather than just watch it through and have it pile onto useless content that you never actually use. One of the biggest things is that we sort of get this idea, it's almost an ego thing. Once you've read something once, that it's like, oh no, but I know it. You know, like I've gone through this shit, right? Like I've already done this. I don't need to go back and do it again, right? And it's an ego thing, really. It is. Because you don't. Like the core concepts of the book, you may understand on like a surface level. But to really take deep, difficult, challenging lessons and adopt them into your life is a very difficult thing to do, right? It's not easy shit. And you're not going to just catch it fucking like this after reading something once, right? It's like, even after reading something many times, it can still be difficult to really grasp fully what the author is talking about. So don't let your ego tell you that you already know exactly what you're about to read, because you don't. I can guarantee you, sit down and have a notebook by your side and note down every chapter that you didn't remember from the first time you read the book. And then look at that and use that as your reminder that, no, I actually don't know everything that's in here. This ego thing, I even struggle with it to this day, to go back and redo stuff, because it feels like, oh, you know, I've completed it, I want to move on, like I want to make progress. But going back and doing this shit again is progress. It's literally like entire things that can be completely out of your mind that you'll learn again. And that's important to do, right? Because a lot of these books, you'll gain the most value from them by mastering 1 or 2 or 3 really good books than you will by like surface level understanding 30, right? Because it's like a lot of us know what to do, and then what happens is that we slowly kind of fade away from this state of enlightenment that we reach. And the reason that happens is because we don't retain the information that got us into that state in the first place. So going back and really redoing is like super crucial here. I was dog shit at school. I was really dog shit at school. And a lot of the reason why is because I didn't study, right? Like, I mean, I did when I had to for exams and shit like that. But I didn't study, right? I took this attitude that I had about having completed something because I was a bit of a gifted kid growing up. I didn't need to try when I started off in school, in primary school. And so I sort of carried that mentality where it's like, I'll look over it once, I'm smart enough to understand it the first time around, and that's that. And it completely fucked me over. Completely. And it still does to this day. Like, it still messes with me to this day. Like, my ego gets the better of me. And like, oh, like, I'm smart enough, I understand, like, I've already got it. Nah. I really don't. But I believe that sometimes. So I don't want you to fall for that. I don't want you to get caught up by your ego. So yeah, if you go back and you really pay attention, you'll see that, like, yeah, there is a lot of shit here, critical things that I need to revise. In terms of practically how to get past this, like, kind of ego barrier, the only thing that's really going to happen is at the thought of going and doing something that your ego disagrees with, you're going to just experience some level of anxiety and dread, or maybe some level of frustration. So the only thing you really need to get through that is to just use your breath. Breathe in deeply, allow yourself to kind of sit with that feeling, like relax your stomach, relax your shoulders, so that you're not just fucking tense. And do that for a little bit and let the anxiety just melt away slowly, and then carry on and take action regardless of how you feel, because it's only your resistance to feeling that way that will stop you from doing it. Like, you can do things anxious. It doesn't stop you. It's only if you say, I'm not willing to experience being anxious, therefore I'm not willing to do this thing that will cause some anxiety within me. That will stop you. But not the anxiety itself. So don't hate the anxiety. Breathe in deeply. Go through it a little bit in your mind. Take whatever time you need and then go. So, last thing I got for you is some recommendations. So the book I've mentioned, in my examples earlier, The Way of the Superior Man by David Dieter, I think it's a fucking fantastic book to do this with, because it covers just about everything. It covers masculinity, covers women, covers work, it covers spiritual questions like death, purpose, all of those kinds of things. So for me, it's like the perfect book to do this on. Although I can see you making an argument to rather do something like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie and that sort of thing. That's also great. Habits of Highly Effective People is probably a very good one too. I can't remember the author of that, unfortunately. One also really good one could be The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by... who is it by? I can't remember, but if you search that, you'll find it. So fucking search it. So yeah, those would be my recommendations, those 4. The Way of the Superior Man, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Habits of Highly Effective People, and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. There's also Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, or any Ryan Holiday book, as a matter of fact. He's a fantastic author. But I'm going to leave you guys with that. Choose any of those, or a book that you just want to use, and read it 5 times. Go ahead and note chapters that you had forgotten, and use that as a way to move forward and gain more and more value from the book each time you read through it. So yeah, our fuckers, go live there.